Um, Welcome, everyone. Excited to see all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. Today, we have a fun panel discussion planned. Welcome to our panel discussion on Google Cloud Anthos, uh, featuring subject matter experts from Google, Redapt, and Intel. It's going to be a fun one, so strap on and enjoy the ride. Uh, we'll in this panel discussion we'll talk about the advantages and benefits modern enterprises can get by leveraging Google Cloud Anthos. Specifically, the benefits that we're talking about are speed, agility, modern application platform, modern application development, leveraging the Google Cloud Anthos platform. So without much ado, I want the panelists to introduce themselves. How about we get started with Amir and then Todd and Matt.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amr Abdurazik. I'm a product manager as part of the Anthos team at Google.
Hi, my name is Todd Christ. I am a solution architect at Intel. I've been working with Google since the inception of Google Anthos.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Francis, Director of Solution Architecture here at Redapt. We're a cloud consulting solutions provider, data center infrastructure integrator, and DevOps engineering firm.
And finally, me, Rohit Kelapur. I'm kind of your co-host or the panel moderator. I'm an app modernization scale specialist, and I'll kind of guide this discussion. As a matter of housekeeping, if you have questions for the panelists, go ahead and type them in the chat. We will monitor it, and there are a couple of places in the panel dialogue where we directly answer your questions. So if you have any questions, please feel ahead and put them in the chat. So let's get started and go to our and let's start with a question. So what do enterprises care about as in regards to modernizing their business applications? Right, app modernization is top of mind, especially with the recent tailwinds and headwinds due to various reasons. What do enterprises really care about?
What we've seen, Rohit, is when we talk to a lot of our customers, I think the number one objective for them is to get speed and velocity from their teams. What's happening is organizations are coming with a lot of innovations. And for some organizations, they're lucky to be born in the cloud and get the innovation. For some of them, or majority of them, they have a lot of existing systems, and the integration of the existing systems needs to be revamped, needs to be modernized to get the same level of speed and agility for them to be able to compete. The second part is also about vendor locking. Many organizations are looking now as seeing, even within clouds or within some of the existing vendors, the locking they exist is preventing them from negotiating better agreements, moving across providers, all of this. So trying to avoid vendor locking as much as possible is one of the other dimensions we see.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of build off of that. With the vendor lock-in, at Intel, we develop so many different segments of each of the servers, right? We not only do the chips, we do the memory, we do the storage, we also have the networking as well. So we do have a very wide and very broad scope of solutions that we provide to all the vendors that are providing the footprint for Google Anthos, and really helping customers understand how to get the best out of their investment. If you're buying a new system to be able to run Google Anthos, there are new accelerators, there's new security features that are available. So we always find that it's good whenever you have new software, it's always good to implement new hardware as well, because you get the best benefit of speed and performance, which everybody expects, but you also get a lot of security features that are built right in, a lot of acceleration and speed ups essentially for the workloads that you're going to have. And again, on top of that, we're talking about stability of the platform. Whenever you get a newer system, obviously it's under warranty, so you get that stability of the platform, you get the longer lifespan of the serviceability. But we also look at things like governance and higher levels of security. So whenever we're building these platforms, we always try to take into mind things like GDPR and the different forcing functions that people have data governance around. So enterprises are really focused on that right now. From a couple of years ago, GDPR was a really big focus area to help customers store their data where they need to, and not necessarily just let their data go wherever they need to go.
Yeah, and Todd, I'll build on that. What a lot of our customers have and really care about is the actual time to deploy the systems and the amount of time that it takes for them to be able to capture value from them. We've seen a lot of time and money wasted on science projects inside of customers that ultimately fail. So they're really looking to us to help reduce the risks and the cost of deploying these next generation platforms.
That makes sense. You mentioned speed and stability and governance. That the Intel Inside logos always kind of gives you that comfort. When I was a child and I had my first laptop, it kind of gave us that sense of confidence. I want to flip this question a little bit and now think about like what do enterprises worry about when it comes to modernizing their applications? Like what are their top concerns? We understand they want speed and agility. Everyone wants to become a digital native. But what's kind of what keeps them awake at night when they embark on modernizing their applications?
What we've seen, Rohit, is it's mostly around the skill set. And I think there is no question now that technology is moving faster than it used to be a couple of years ago. You have previously used to have like an application software that you use. You get a new version every 2 years. You have a 1 year to do a migration, and everywhere. Well, life is great. These are different times now. Applications are being released quarterly. Services in the cloud are released even daily. So I think the challenge is how can you find the skill set required to have that? And this is a two-pronged challenge because you cannot just hire new people every day. Not to mention they're very scarce. For organizations that have hundreds and thousands of people, how can you modernize the existing workforce, the existing teams that you have, and build the skill set within your team instead of just chasing hiring for new technologies every day?
Yeah, and I think to build on top of that, right? A lot of our partners and customers look at the infrastructure they have in their data center, and being able to monitor utilization of those platforms and make sure you're getting the best utilization is tough, right? Unless you have a single pane of glass to be able to look across your entire architecture, you're not exactly sure which systems are being used and which ones aren't being used. That's one of the real benefits with Google Anthos is that you do get that single pane of glass. You're able to look across your ecosystem and see which systems are spun up, which ones are being utilized. And so being able to maximize your purchase, essentially. You have a lot of infrastructure in the data center. If you have systems that are just running, they're not doing any type of compute, they're just basically burning energy and wasting HVAC energy as well. So that's a really big loss for a lot of customers. So I think the enterprises do worry about this. As we start to modernize new applications, things are now becoming much more tightly integrated, and the software layers really help you to monitor utilization and ensure that you're not letting your investment go to waste.
Yeah, and what I hear out there is customers with just a sense of fear of being out-engineered and out-developed by their competitors. In today's digital economy, it's transforming at a faster velocity than ever. And companies that don't position themselves to really innovate and stay on the forefront of technology are literally at risk of being at one release from their competitors of a new feature from being dramatically left behind. And really their relevance in the marketplace, it's severely diminished.
Yeah, like coming back to something what Amir said about skill set, when we first started off with Kubernetes, there was the Kubernetes administrator certification, CKA, then they added CKAD, and now there is the new one, which is CKS. Just like the speed of how these certifications evolve and how popular they are, like it's a challenge keeping up with them and just retooling and staying on top of Kubernetes as just an example of things that you need to continuously learn as you practice AppMod. Before we move forward, I wanted to ask the audience if there are any additional concerns that you are facing, given that you are here and you have this panel of experts. This would be a great time to kind of bring out some of your issues so that and get the panel's opinion on them. So go ahead and drop that in the chat, and we can cover that later as towards the end. So let's uh, let's talk more specific things here. We kind of were at a high level earlier. We spoke about the needs and the worries. Let's now focus more on Google Cloud Anthos, and specifically, what does Google Cloud Anthos provide to enterprises? Like what is Anthos and how does it like help enterprises in concrete terms? I think that would be a good insight to all the members in this Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, Rohit, when I was joining Google, I had the same question: what exactly is this thing that is called Anthos? I think the key thing here, it's a Kubernetes-based platform designed to run on premises and on multi-cloud. And when we say a platform, this is not just a play of the word. It is really is the foundation and the tooling required to manage and simplify the management of these Kubernetes applications. Now, it currently supports container, but we're working to extend that to virtual machines as well. And the goal is to have customers simply run across cloud providers, across even different on-premise infrastructure, VMware, and bare metal. So you don't have to build different teams, different silos, different operating models, which is kind of where it is right now for many organizations. You can just run this, use the same methodologies, the same applications across everywhere. We give you the centralized control plane for visibility, for troubleshooting. We make it very easy to deploy updates even across cloud. You can even do like a one check-in or use Git, and suddenly with one command, you could deploy to like 5 locations or multi-clusters. And of course, we have the built-in security governance backed by Google's long expertise in cloud, in Kubernetes, and in next-generation applications.
Yeah, and I think to build on top of that, Anthos gives customers choice. That's what's really interesting with the model. Whenever we worked with Google to initially launch on VMware, it was a very easy and pervasive model, right? The VMware is pretty much in all the enterprise data centers. And to be able to deploy that Anthos appliance on top of VMware made it very easy and simple to get kickstarted into Anthos and understand how that's working. Over the past couple of years, Anthos has really grown into this multi-cloud type model, right? You can deploy in AWS and Azure. You can connect to other Kubernetes clusters, as Amr said, right? It's very, very flexible and gives you those capabilities no matter where you do your compute. And this allows customers to really modernize their applications, not only from a positional standpoint of where they deploy their workloads. They don't have to move their data around anymore. They can deploy Anthos where their data resides, because usually data transfers is one of the most expensive parts of cloud, and it also takes a lot of extra time. But being able to modernize the applications as well, you now have choice with bare metal. You're not confined to a VMware infrastructure. You can now add different accelerators, VPUs, GPUs. We have a ton of effort at Intel that we work around. It's called 01.org/Kubernetes. Those are the different projects that we work on for Kubernetes acceleration. And we have things like storage on our persistent memory, right? There's a PMEM CSI. So customers that need to have that ultra fast storage, being able to utilize new architectures, they can really modernize their applications, right? The applications are great. And, we've always had this discussion is that, Google writes great software, Intel makes great hardware. Stitching those two together really help build the applications to move forward. And that's where it really helps, customers like Redapt, where they have the smarts to put it all together. that's a really beneficial part for this new bare metal offering.
Yeah, and ultimately, Anthos as a platform, really, I believe it gives us the ability to unleash developers, allow them to innovate faster, but still putting the guardrails and the governance to provide the operational stability and the security that's really necessary to run applications in production. And having that common platform that you can deploy in multiple clouds helps you overcome some of the vendor lock-in fears that some customers may have. And it really allows them to run the applications wherever it makes the most sense, whether it be from a cost perspective or desire to have access to specific cloud tool sets, or even as Todd was alluding to, running those applications on premises where you may have data gravity issues and it's just too much of a cost, time, or there's other compliance and security reasons why you don't want to move that data.
Yeah, I like that, Matt. Like, I think you put it very simply, which is like it's an open multi-cloud hybrid cloud platform where you can pretty much run the Google's GKE anywhere, but in a very open standards-based manner to accelerate app modernization. So I get that, like that makes complete sense. But what is special about bare metal, right? Why would enterprises want to leverage Google Cloud Anthos, specifically Google Cloud Anthos bare metal? What's that? What makes that so special? Like, let's dig just a little bit deeper on that to give folks here insight into that.
Yeah, I think I talked about that just briefly before. Is customers, they want to be able to get the best bang for the buck, obviously, for what they're purchasing, whether it's the software or the hardware, but being able to maximize the utilization of those platforms, right? I'd mentioned earlier that a few systems that are out there not being utilized, you're basically just burning money, every minute. So being able to maximize your hardware utilization, because you can throw tons and tons of software on top of these, right? Kubernetes makes for great applications, very lightweight, very nimble, and it depends on that speed, right? That's what a lot of customers really love about Kubernetes, is that you have that agility with containers. Being able to maximize that hardware acceleration is really important. So things like FPGAs, your GPUs, your VPUs, being able to implement TensorFlow type workloads, and being able to really churn through your data as fast as possible is really important, right? Because the more data that you can ingest, the more data that you can process, the more data you can output, right? So I think the really key feature with bare metal is that it really allows customers to finely tune what they want to do, and it gets them with these reference designs, it gets them past the how do we build this to, okay, how do we use the data, right? They're actually doing real work and not doing that overhead of trying to figure out how to make it work. And I think that's what Google has really done, is made it a very simple and easy to deploy type model. So you can get your maximum performance with low cost, and being able to get to work, or time to delivery versus figuring out how to time to deploy this thing. Anthos makes it very, very simple. And I know that was one of the biggest struggles that a lot of our customers have had over the past 6-7 years with Kubernetes, is each time they want to deploy, they have to build up their own cluster, they have to support it, they have to sustain it. And then as it grows, or as they want to move it into different geos, it was very tough, right? And I think Google has made this really easy. So now you can take your bare metal solution, you can replicate that everywhere, and Anthos will replicate with that as you move your workload around.
Yeah, and I would say it's the broad set of use cases that are available for it. You can deploy this in a micro footprint, right? You can take an Intel NUC and have a Kubernetes system running on top of it. If you have extreme edge locations, or mid-sized deployments, if you're doing an inside of a retail location, or you can go massive scale inside of the data center. All of this, again, with that one common platform and the ability to utilize all of the knowledge that you have and existing tool sets to be able to leverage Kubernetes in the environment that makes sense for you. And as Todd was alluding to, right, if you take an example of a retail where you may have the need for low latency at that edge in that retail location, but you want to be able to stream data back into your data center so that you can utilize optimized hardwares like FPGAs and GPUs to really mine that data to be able to get the actionable insights that you need to be able to make really valid business decisions.
Nice. That's awesome. Like I feel like if I were to go in a retail store and there's Kubernetes there, the recommendation engine would be really simple. Just recommend a Excel size polo shirt for this guy. But that's a separate conversation. I love the undifferentiated toil, the time to delivery, keep making Anthos making things simple. Um, let's talk about the partnership. Like how does uh, Google and Redapt and Intel work together to provide the speed and velocity that Kubernetes has to offer and that Anthos builds on top of. Let's talk about the partnership together a little bit to make it more actionable and concrete.
I think what Google brings is the software expertise, not just in building the software, but also in operating the software. And we've codified a lot of these policies and a lot of these best practices into Anthos. So you get the stability, you get the security in government, and you get all the capabilities, the advanced capabilities in Kubernetes and the cutting edge, while also making sure that they all tested and reliable and work together. So that's kind of the expertise we bring, and also our expertise in cloud native systems, working with a large variety of customers across this journey and helping translate that expertise to the majority of our customers.
Yeah, and I think from an Intel perspective, right? I mean, Google brings that software perspective, Intel brings the hardware perspective, and the accelerator perspectives, right? I think that's really important because we don't build hardware just to build hardware, right? We have purpose-built hardware that fits specific types of workloads. We work on these reference designs with Google to deploy Anthos, whether it's on VMware or on bare metal. In your data center and at the edge. Matt had mentioned the Intel NUC. Yeah, we have a really cool reference design that's we published about a month and a half ago, where you can actually take just a handful of NUCs and run Anthos on those. So if you have some lighter weight workloads, you've got your big central data center, and say you've got 500 stores, and if you just have a very light touch, you can deploy it on something as simple as a NUC. So that's a really neat and innovative way to, not only have the compute there, but we also have accelerators built into them. Our latest Intel NUCs now have deep learning boost built into them. So something that used to be just data center driven is now coming down into the client space. So now you can program and get some of those benefits. It's a lighter weight benefit, right? Because it's a smaller footprint, but you can still get those newer technologies built into that. And that's something that Intel has really learned. We've been in business over 50 years, and we focus a huge amount on enterprise, right? We do, and it's interesting to bring the NUCs into this play because they're more of a client like home-based type model. But we do have these new pro-based models, right? That has Intel vPro, so it has business connectivity, some out-of-band focus. So it kind of blends into those spaces. And that's the big benefit, is that we do have such a wide catalog of different solutions and models. Everything from the NUC the whole way up to the second gen Intel Xeon Scalable, the big iron, what I call it, in the data center. We really help to try and optimize, no matter where that workload's at, is we make the hardware that fits into that workload. And then lastly, I'd mentioned before about, we have different toolkits and software. Just because we say, here's a piece of hardware, write code for it. We have, libraries and acceleration software that really helps tie those end pieces together. So if you're doing your Kubernetes optimizations, you can now inject code that we have specific to make that specific piece of hardware run that much better, and fine tune your workload so you can get, deep learning boost is a great example. Being able to run those deep learning algorithms in just software. And then once we implemented deep learning boost, there was like 11 to 12x performance boost because we were able to inject that into hardware. So that's a huge difference, right? Being able to get 11 or 12 times the speed improvement, because then you're not waiting for data. The data is being processed. You can move on to your next bottleneck or your next challenge.
Yeah, and from a Redapt perspective, as an Intel partner, we're really privileged to have direct access to their hardware engineers and really allow us to collaborate to be able to deliver hardware solutions that are optimally designed for the platform that we're presenting. And as a Google Premier partner, we have really a lot of deep expertise in helping enterprises leverage the Google Cloud Platform to deliver modern infrastructure to help with their applications as well as with their data solutions. And specifically for Anthos, we've actually partnered up with both Intel and Google to deliver our Jumpstart program, which features our pod architecture for hardware, as well as the Jumpstart services that allow us to go from really zero to production at optimal price points and in accelerated timeframes. As part of the Jumpstart service, we'll deliver that pre-validated infrastructure that is ready to go whenever it hits your data center, provide you access to consultants that are specifically knowledgeable in Google, and will actually help you deploy a pilot application on top of the Anthos platforms. So it's really our goal to unburden your operations teams by delivering a platform that's ready to go, as well as helping your developers with the velocity to bring new products to market.
I especially love the retail edge example that I think we've spoken about in this discussion panel. Um, are there any like success stories that we can talk about publicly here about our work with Anthos and Anthos on the edge? I think it's always good to give examples, so which makes it more real. Is there anything that we can discuss about a specific customer?
We have a leading software company that was developing a next generation retail edge platform. They needed to manage thousands of in-store applications that are distributed all the way across the globe. So they came to us to help implement a solution. And really they're working on a security and supply chain software stack. And these had to be delivered into those small retail locations, and they were looking for a way to be able to manage the deployment of their application as well as the platform that they were running on in a very efficient way. So they came to us to build a proof of concept that was based off of Google Cloud Anthos and delivered on Intel hardware utilizing the VMware solution. We were able to help them build that technology stack, prove it out inside of our labs, as well as several different retail locations. And eventually they were able to adopt that as a foundation for delivering those edge solutions and Kubernetes clusters across all of the different customers that they support.
Yeah, I think that was a really cool usage model. And as Amr had mentioned before, right, one of the big things that they wanted to work on was being able to do timely updates. And the nice thing is that you can do a push out to your Anthos infrastructure and say they had a time-based release or something that, maybe once a month they had to do a certain update. Before they would have to go through, and it wasn't quite SneakerNet, right? Wasn't that ancient, but the Anthos model really gives a lot of flexibility and adds speed to those types of deployments. So they can basically schedule something, push it out, and then you can go back and verify, right? And pretty much it pushes out that update. You know that all your nodes are up to date, all your code is up to date, and it just makes it a much more fluid type activity. And I always go back to customers now get back to work, and they get to work on cool new things instead of monitoring and maintaining those kind of menial tasks that nobody really likes to do, but you have to do. I think Anthos really automates a lot of that functionality.
Yeah, I like that.
And Todd, if I may, just to build on that, is this kind of blurs. I think there's something that Matt said that I think was, I will just shed some light on, is this kind of blurs the lines between where you deploy and what you deploy. So we actually have customers who are developing their applications on the cloud, deploying a version of that in their own data center, whether it's on VMware, and then deploying the same application on bare metal. And the experience is kind of the same. And they can push monthly, weekly, daily, even like every minute if they want. It doesn't matter. Like the environment is completely abstracted. And that's part of the beauty is like, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to care about what specific infrastructure. I only have to care about the application and shipping the applications. And Anthos takes care of everything and blurring everything, even the policy. I think that's another thing that maybe a little bit we should be talking about it more. Is if I want to get a security policy streamlined across like AWS and Google Cloud and a data center and an edge location. Let's say I have a new development team, and I want to give them access control through your identity and access. How can you actually manage that across? It becomes a single line of change, single policy. You apply the policy and it gets propagated. So it's not just the apps, it's the security and control on the policy that you get as well across all of those infrastructure that becomes almost seamless across the board.
Nice. So sign me up. I want in. How can the folks here, all the good people who joined from various enterprises get a taste of Anthos on bare metal? How can they leverage this partnership that we're talking about here in their specific context, in their environments? What's kind of their call to action?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we partnered with Intel and Google and actually have an Anthos environment that's installed inside of it, the Redapt labs. And we have the ability to schedule customers to take a test drive of that environment in our labs with us. Also, in addition to that, if customers have barriers to entry and need hardware solutions, we're able to provide those jumpstart services in the Anthos pod architecture that I talked about, as well as helping them enable the day two operations, whether they need help with their application modernization initiatives, or if they need to be able to unlock the Google Cloud Enterprise Data Platform to leverage AI and ML technologies.
Nice, and we'll put the links in the deck and the notes after as we send the presentation out so that they can get to those labs. So this is great. This kind of was the program, this discussion. Let's take some questions from the audience now. Like if either type it in the chat or feel free to come off of mute and ask your question. I think Amir and Matt and Todd are the experts in this space. So I would really leverage their expertise. So pretty much any question that's related in this space is game. So if you have any questions, now is a good time. Otherwise, I have crafted a selfish question myself, which I may go after. All right. So let me ask my question, and then everyone, you still have 5 minutes to think about your question. This is for each one of the panelists, Todd, Matt, and Amir. Can you talk about one feature of Anthos or of your Intel-based NUGs or of Redapt that you want that is amazing, but folks don't know about it and you wish was used more by the field? It's either an existing feature or something that's coming up in alpha or beta that you want to put out that folks started using more, that you wish folks used more in the field. So there isn't any order. Anyone can start first.
I mean, I can start. I think I hinted that. So I focus my work on the platform layer on like the GKE bare metal side, but actually my favorite part of the stack is what we call Anthos config management, which I kind of alluded at it a little bit by applying the policy. I used to be a security administrator. I used to be a customer and a regulator in a high security environment. And it is amazing how easy it is to apply the policy and take a template and apply it across the cloud. And it takes minutes. Like once you have the policy, it takes minutes to sync. You make sure that the environment is up to date. The amount of time and effort I spent like in my life trying to make environments consistent from a policy perspective, I can't even like imagine how much it is. So the fact you can do it right now with just a simple click and a simple apply kind of blows my mind a little bit of how the world have changed over the last couple of years.
ACM for the win.
ECM, yes.
I think that's a really good point, because it's thousands of man hours that go into Google Anthos, right? You simplify those simple tasks that I think, like Amr says, right? You always have to have your hands around everything and understand where are my policies and all that stuff. So I think that's a great opportunity. But one of the things that I want to bring up is our what we call Intel Select Solutions. These are our reference designs that we help with our customers and partners. Again, to not really think about what you have to put into the platform to get Anthos to run well. And we've done all the work on the back end. We do the benchmarking, we do the testing in our own labs, and then we share that design out with our partners to say, hey, here's the baseline of what's going to get you a good amount of performance. You can always build bigger. We don't build them as these hero architectures, right? Because to build this multi-million-dollar platform, it's really cool, right? It puts all the dials up to 11 and makes everything look great. But we try to build for the average customer and consumer in the enterprise. So we share those designs out. We make them easy and repeatable. We have benchmarks that are included. That's one of the things that whenever we get started with Google Anthos, is we're one of the, or probably the only reference design that actually does benchmarking on our platform. And it's because it's just kind of part of our DNA, right? Intel's always looking to see how can we improve, and we improve by data, right? So if something is 10% faster, it gives you 10% more throughput, or with deep learning boost, 11 times the throughput. That's something that's really a great detail for customers to be aware of. So definitely go out and look for those, Intel Select Solutions for Google Cloud's Anthos. We also have a technical brief on the new bare metal design, and we're working on a new bare metal for enterprise big reference design as well. So encourage folks to go out and take a look at that.
Yeah, and much the same theme as Anthos config management. What really excites me and what really makes me happy about our partnership and the solution overall is our ability to deliver that turnkey solution to a customer that incorporates both the hardware platform as well as the software platform, and really help them scrap the science projects that they've been working on internally that are always doomed to failure, and providing them, again, an easy on-ramp to be able to start consuming services and allowing their developers to continue the work that they're doing.
Nice. We do have one question, which is, I'm not sure, maybe Amir, you can take this. How does Anthos on bare metal get around hypervisors? Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, so the way it works is we run on a customer-provided operating systems. So the customer deploys the software, the OS, excuse me, and then we take it from there. So we have an option, in the VMware option, we have the option to deploy and ship our own OS. What we realize is there is a lot of regulated industries, there is a lot of organizations who really want to have that tight control on the OS version and the OS release process and how they attach it as part of their CMDBs. So the way we build Anthos on bare metal is the customer deploys the OS, and we deploy on top of it. And we actually support a wide variety of OS. We support RHEL, Ubuntu, and CentOS, and we can different versions, and you can deploy on top of it, and we can keep updating the metrics, supported metrics as we go. The other benefit of that is also it simplifies a lot of the device management capabilities. So if you have specialized devices, specialized hardware, we get the benefit of all of those operating systems and the integrations that did before. So it actually expands the hardware. So you can reuse your existing hardware or buy new hardware. So that's also another part of the benefit. A lot of custom repurpose existing hardware they have in the data center. For example, if they move to cloud and have some extra capacity, they can reuse that right away out of the box.
Nice. Any last questions, folks, before we wrap this up? Okay. Thank you for the great discussion, Amir, Matt, Todd. Thank you for all the panelists and folks who showed up on Zoom. I learned a lot. I hope you guys did too. Reach out, get the offer that Matt put out with the Redapt Engineering Labs. Get your Mercs, get Anthos, start playing with it, and realize the value and drive app mod in your enterprises. Thank you so much.